Beloved, for generations humanity has searched for a way to touch the infinite. We have prayed for it, worked for it, fasted for it, visualized it, begged for it, and still the heart is restless. Still the mind wanders. Still the soul whispers, there must be something more. In our modern age, two powerful streams have risen in the spiritual landscape. One is old, familiar, wrapped in ancient rituals and doctrines. The other is new, radiant, filled with bright slogans about energy, vibration, and manifestation. And yet, if you look deeply, you will find that both streams, though sincere, often leave the seeker standing in the same place, longing, searching, reaching outward for what already lives within. So today, we must come together in stillness to examine this question. What is the reality behind Christ consciousness? Not as the world defines it, not as religion frames it, not as modern spirituality markets it, but as the infinite revealed it to those who are ready to hear. You see, my friends, the spiritual world today is filled with noise. Everyone speaks of awakening. Everyone speaks of power. Everyone speaks of secrets, techniques, frequencies, codes. But very few speak of the one truth that dissolves all, seeking the truth that Christ. Consciousness is not something to attain. It is something to recognize, something to awaken to, something to remember. It is not distant. It is not hidden. It is not reserved for saints, masters, mystics, or some chosen few. Christ consciousness is the very essence of your being, waiting patiently behind every thought, every fear, every desire, every attempt to improve your life by human means. Yet, because we do not understand the nature of this presence, we turn outward. Some turn toward religion, hoping the right prayer will move God's hand. Some turn toward manifestation, hoping the right technique will bend the universe to their will. But listen carefully. Both approaches begin with the same fatal assumption that God and man are separate. And wherever the belief in separation exists, the experience of lack must follow. The religious mind says, God is out there, I must reach him. The metaphysical mind says, power is out there, I must attract it. But the awakened mind, the mind illuminated by Christ consciousness, gently whispers, I and the Father are one. Ah, there it is, the truth that silences all striving. Today, let us set aside the outer forms, the arguments, the doctrines, the systems. Let us set aside the desire to fix life, improve life, manipulate life, for Christ consciousness does not come to those who grasp at the world. It comes to those who release the world and discover the kingdom within. The purpose of our time together is simple: to reveal why modern manifestation and traditional religion both fail to satisfy the soul, and why Joel Goldsmith pointed to a higher way, a way not of attraction, not of obedience, but of recognition. You are not here to learn how to pull blessings toward you. You are here to discover that the source of all blessings has never been absent for a single moment. You are not here to harness divine power. You are here to realize that divine power is the substance of your own being. You are not here to find Christ consciousness. You are here to awaken to what you already are. So as we begin, let us rest in this simple truth. What you seek is seeking to reveal itself through you, not tomorrow, not after years of disciplines and affirmations, but now, in this very moment, if you will but become still enough to hear. Now, beloved, having set the foundation, let us step forward into the next understanding. The two great misunderstandings that have shaped humanity's search for God. Beloved, let us now look with honesty and quiet clarity at the two great misunderstandings that have shaped humanity's spiritual life for centuries. These misunderstandings are not born of malice nor of ignorance, but of the innocent belief that God is separate from us. From this one assumption, the entire fabric of confusion is woven. The first misunderstanding is this: that spirit is a tool, something you use to acquire what you desire. This is the foundation of modern metaphysics and the countless manifestation systems that flood our world today. They speak of the universe as a mechanism, of consciousness as a lever, of prayer as a technology. And so the seeker begins to treat the infinite as a cosmic vending machine. Give me the right affirmation, and I will get the right result. Yes, give me the correct vibration, and the universe must deliver my request. Give me the secret technique, and I will finally have what I lack. But listen gently. Any attempt to use God instantly reveals the belief that God is missing, distant, unavailable. And the moment you believe God is absent, lack must appear in your experience. Spirit cannot be used. Spirit cannot be manipulated. Spirit cannot be summoned. Not because Spirit is withholding, but because Spirit is already all there is, fully present, fully complete, fully expressing itself as your very being. One does not summon what is already here. One does not attract what is already one with oneself. One only recognizes. The second misunderstanding is its mirror opposite. If the first treats God as a tool, the second treats God as a reward. Here lies the structure of traditional religion. The seeker is told, live correctly, and God may bless you. Obey the commandments, and God might protect you. Be worthy, and God will give you what you need. And so God becomes a distant ruler, a cosmic judge, a being who must be convinced, pleased, appeased. The spiritual life becomes a long performance, an attempt to earn divine favor. Yet even the devout, even the sincere, feel the weight of this burden, for no matter how much they pray or serve or sacrifice, the sense of separation remains. God stays out there, and the heart stays here, longing for union it cannot reach. But hear this truth with the ears of the Spirit. God does not reward you for goodness. God expresses as your goodness. God does not give you peace. God is the peace within you. God does not send you supply. God is the source living as your very being. What need is there to earn what you already are? Both misunderstandings, though opposite in form, share a single root. Both say, I am here, and God is somewhere else. The metaphysician says God is a force to attract. The religionist says God is a power to obey. But the awakened soul, the soul touched by Christ consciousness, knows God is the life I am living, God is the mind I am thinking, God is the substance I am being. There is no separation to bridge, no distance to overcome, no technique to employ, and no reward to earn. And here lies the heart of our journey. Until this fundamental error is seen, the seeker will remain trapped either in the restless chase for manifestation or in the weary struggle for divine approval. But when the truth of oneness is recognized, even faintly, all seeking begins to dissolve like mist before the sun. The soul rests, the mind becomes still, and the presence within announces itself as the only reality. Let us now continue to the next and deeper revelation. What Christ consciousness truly is and why it ends all separation once understood. Beloved, having seen the two misunderstandings that keep the seeker wandering in circles, using God as a tool or striving for God as a reward, we can now come to the heart of the matter. For unless we know what Christ consciousness is, we cannot understand why both religion and manifestation fall short of the soul's deepest longing. Christ consciousness is not a higher self you must climb up to meet. It is not a new vibration you must learn to hold. It is not a mystical dimension somewhere above this world. It is not a special power given to holy men or advanced practitioners. Christ consciousness is the simple, direct, present knowing that God and you are not two. It is the end of the belief in separation. This is all, and this is everything. It is the awareness, quiet, unforced, and unmistakable, that the very life living you is the infinite life itself. It is the recognition that the intelligence which beats your heart, moves your breath, forms your thoughts, and sustains your existence is the same intelligence that formed the worlds. Not similar to it, not inspired by it. One with it. When Jesus said, "I and the Father are one," he was not describing a privilege. He was revealing a principle that applies to every soul, in every age, in every place. The truth he spoke was not about himself alone. It was about the nature of consciousness itself. Christ consciousness is the moment you realize that the kingdom of God is not a distant realm, a future reward, or a mystical location. It is the awareness of the divine presence already functioning as your very being. This recognition changes everything, not by adding something new to you, but by removing the illusion of separation. It is not emotional. It is not dramatic. Often, it is quiet, so quiet you may think nothing happened. It comes not with fireworks, but with stillness. Not with sensation, but with understanding. Not with excitement, but with peace. You begin to sense, perhaps for the first time, that God is not out there sending good to you. God is the good, the supply, the harmony, the peace that is already present within consciousness. You discover that you do not live your life alone. You discover that the guidance you sought, the answers you begged for, the support you prayed to receive, all of it was already within you, hidden only by the belief that you were a separate being struggling your way through a difficult world. Christ consciousness dissolves this dream. You do not become divine. You recognize that divinity has always been the truth of your being. You do not ascend into a higher state. You awaken from the lower one. You do not unite with God. You realize you were never separated in the first place. This realization does not come through effort. It does not come through deserving. It does not come through practice. It comes through recognition of what is already so. And here is the miracle. When the sense of separation dissolves within you, the world begins to reflect that inner unity. Harmony appears where conflict once lived. Healing unfolds where fear once ruled. Supply flows where lack once gripped the mind. Relationships soften, burdens lift, and life begins to move with a grace that cannot be explained by human reasoning. Why? Because the outer is always the shadow of the inner. And when the inner knows its oneness with the infinite, the outer reorganizes to match the truth now realized. So let us step gently, reverently, into the next part of our journey, examining why the popular New Age manifestation teachings fail to bring lasting peace, and why they keep the soul trapped in the illusion of separation. Beloved, now that we have seen the nature of Christ consciousness as the end of separation, let us gently turn our attention to the path so many sincere seekers travel today, the path of manifestation. Let us approach this not with judgment, not with criticism, but with compassion. For all who walk this way are simply reaching for the freedom they have not yet recognized within themselves. There is nothing wrong with wanting a better life. There is nothing wrong with seeking health, supply, harmony, companionship. These desires are natural to the human sense of life. But trouble arises the moment you believe you must shape the universe to fulfill these needs. For the attempt to manifest is built on one subtle assumption. What I need is outside of me, and I must draw it toward me. Here is the fatal flaw. Here is the quiet belief that keeps the soul wandering. the belief that good is separate from your being, the belief that abundance, health, peace, and harmony exist out there, waiting for the right thought to attract them. But let us look deeper. When one visualizes wealth, one is affirming poverty. When one insists on healing, one is agreeing with sickness. When one demands success, one is confirming its absence. When one attempts to attract love, one is silently declaring unworthiness. All manifestation techniques begin with lack. They begin with a problem. They begin with the belief that something is missing and it must be added to you. This, dear one, is what Joel Goldsmith calls seeking second. All manifestation techniques begin with lack. They begin with a problem. They begin with the belief that something is missing and it must be added to you. Beloved, now that we have seen the nature of Christ consciousness as the end of separation, let us gently turn our attention to the path so many sincere seekers travel today, the path of manifestation. Let us approach this not with judgment, not with criticism, but with compassion. For all who walk this way are simply reaching for the freedom they have not yet recognized within themselves. The outer world is not the cause. It is the effect, but you can see how sincere seekers become trapped. When a technique seems to work, excitement grows. When it fails, anxiety increases. And because the method rests entirely upon mental effort, the seeker becomes exhausted trying to maintain the right thoughts, the right energy, the right vibration. Manifestation is labor. Recognition is rest. Manifestation attempts to control the world. Recognition reveals the world to be the expression of consciousness. Manifestation tries to fix life. Recognition sees that life is already whole. Manifestation says, I will change my thoughts to improve my experience. Recognition says, my experience is the shadow of the truth I acknowledge. Do you see the difference? One approach depends on human will. The other rests in divine realization. One approach strives to get. The other awakens to what already is. Joel Goldsmith discovered something profound. Whenever you attempt to make something happen, you declare the absence of God in that situation. And wherever you declare God absent, you will experience lack, fear, frustration, and delay. Not because God punishes you, not because the universe rejects you, but because you are unknowingly denying the truth of your own being. Spiritual supply does not come through attraction. It is revealed through recognition. Healing does not come through force. It unfolds when the illusion of separation dissolves. Harmony does not come through mental manipulation. It appears when the mind rests in presence. And so, beloved, the entire structure of manifestation collapses under the weight of its first assumption that the good you seek is separate from you. This is the trap of seeking second, trying to adjust the outer world without first acknowledging the inner reality. Only one thing is required. Turn to the kingdom within. Recognize the presence. Rest in the truth of oneness. Then watch as the outer world quietly arranges itself according to the inner knowing. To understand this fully, we must now examine the other side of the coin. Why traditional religious striving also fails to satisfy the soul, for it too is built upon the belief in separation. Beloved, having seen why modern manifestation fails the soul, let us look now at the other path. Humanity has walked for centuries the path of traditional religion. And again, let us look with compassion. For those who turn to religion, do so out of sincere longing, sincere devotion, sincere desire to know God. Their hearts are earnest. Their intentions are pure. But sincerity alone cannot dissolve an illusion. Devotion alone cannot heal a fundamental misunderstanding. And tradition, no matter how ancient or revered, cannot make separation true. The religious seeker has been taught for generations that God is a being outside of themselves, a father in the sky, watching, judging, rewarding, withholding, a God who must be pleased, a God who must be obeyed, a God who may intervene if one prays hard enough, believes strongly enough, sacrifices deeply enough. So the seeker lives with a constant inner tension, a quiet fear, an unspoken question: am I worthy? Am I good enough? Have I done enough to earn God's blessing? This is not spiritual living. This is spiritual striving. The religious mind imagines God as distant, separate, beyond reach, and therefore it lives as a beggar, hoping, pleading, bargaining. Lord, hear my prayer. Lord, send your healing. Lord, give me strength. But listen gently, my friend. The moment you ask God to come to you, you have denied the truth that God is already within you. The moment you pray to an external deity, you have forgotten the one who is living your very breath. The moment you imagine yourself apart from the divine, you create a gulf that no amount of devotion can bridge. For devotion, no matter how sincere, cannot unite what is already one. It can only delay the recognition. Traditional religion places the seeker under a burden, the burden of spiritual performance, the burden of trying to earn what already belongs to them, the burden of praying to a God who has never been absent. It is a heavy load. It wears down the mind. It exhausts the heart. And yet, even the most faithful often find that their prayers echo back in silence, not because God is withholding, but because the prayer begins with the false belief that God is somewhere else. Joel Goldsmith discovered the liberating truth. God is not a reward for obedience. God is the substance of your being. Traditional religion places the seeker under a burden, the burden of spiritual performance, the burden of trying to earn what already belongs to them, the burden of praying to a God who has never been absent. It is a heavy load. It wears down the mind. It exhausts the heart. And yet, even the most faithful often find that their prayers echo back in silence, not because God is withholding, but because the prayer begins with the false belief that God is somewhere else. You cannot earn what you already are. You cannot persuade the presence. You cannot convince the infinite. You can only awaken to it. And so both paths, the modern metaphysical path and the ancient religious path, share one root error: the belief that God and man are separate. Until this truth dawns, the sincere religious seeker remains outside the gates of a kingdom that is not locked merely unseen, and thus neither can bring the peace, the healing, the supply, the guidance that the soul seeks. For these do not come through reaching outward. They flow naturally when one turns inward and recognizes the presence already living as themselves. Now that we have seen the limitations of both extremes, we may step into the true heart of this teaching. The radical middle way, Joel Goldsmith revealed the way of recognition, not manipulation, the way of oneness realized, not oneness attained. Beloved, having seen why both the path of manifestation and the path of religious striving fail the seeker, let us now turn toward the true spiritual way, the way Joel Goldsmith lived, taught, demonstrated, and proved. It is not the way of effort. It is not the way of techniques. It is not the way of belief. It is the way of recognition. Recognition is the turning point. It is the moment the heart stops reaching outward and begins to awaken inward. It is the moment the mind stops grasping and begins resting. It is the moment the soul hears a quiet truth and knows, perhaps for the first time, the entire spiritual journey has been an illusion because I have never been separate from God. What makes this path radical is not that it is new. It is radical because it removes every structure the ego depends upon. The structure of control, the structure of effort, the structure of achieving, the structure of deserving, all of that dissolves in the light of recognition. For recognition does not say, God will bless me if I do this or believe that. Recognition does not say, I will manifest my good when I learn the right formula. Recognition says simply, God already is. And because God is, all that concerns my life is already fulfilled within the One. This is not a philosophy. This is a state of consciousness. This is the inner doorway to Christ, awareness. Joel never taught people how to manipulate the world. He taught them how to see that the world has no power in and of itself. He never taught people how to attract things. He taught them how to recognize that all supply flows from the infinite that is already within. He never taught people how to get healing. He taught them how to see that wholeness is the nature of spiritual being. All of that dissolves in the light of recognition. For recognition does not say, God will bless me if I do this or believe that. Recognition does not say, I will manifest my good when I learn the right formula. Recognition says simply, God already is. And because God is, all that concerns my life is already fulfilled within the One. And this is why he also said, you cannot bring God to a situation. For God is not outside of anything. God is the reality of everything. Yes, beloved, this is a radical idea. It strips away the comfort of human control and replaces it with something far more powerful, divine assurance. In the way of recognition, you do not declare truth to make it true. You declare truth because it is true. You do not affirm good to make good appear. You acknowledge good because good is the nature of God, and God is the nature of you. You do not visualize perfection to attract it. You rest in perfection because it is the eternal condition of your being. Recognition is a seeing. Recognition is an unveiling. Recognition is an inner opening through which the presence announces itself, sometimes softly, sometimes suddenly, but always unmistakably. And what does this recognition reveal? It reveals that the very consciousness with which you listen to these words is the same consciousness that formed the stars. It reveals that the peace you long for is not something you must earn. It is the foundation of your existence. It reveals that the supply you seek is not dependent on effort or fortune. It flows from the infinite invisible. It reveals that the healing you pray for is not something to be achieved. It is the truth already established in spirit. It reveals that the harmony you desire with others is not a negotiation between personalities. It is the natural expression of oneness realized. In the way of recognition, you stop trying to change the world. You stop trying to fix the world. You stop trying to arrange the world. Instead, you turn within, you become still, and you see that all change flows from the inner to the outer. All healing flows from the invisible to the visible. All supply flows from the infinite to the manifest. And then something beautiful occurs. Life begins to move effortlessly, not because you control it, but because you no longer interfere with the grace that has always been guiding it. This is Joel Goldsmith's radical middle way. Not manifestation, not obedience, not belief, not mental effort, but recognition of truth. And now, having seen this path, we may move naturally into its practical application. How to walk this way in the midst of daily life. How to turn from seeking second to seeking first. And how to make recognition the foundation of your entire spiritual life. Beloved, now that the foundation has been laid, now that we understand the illusion of separation, the futility of outward seeking, and the quiet majesty of recognition, we may gently turn toward the practical application of this truth. For truth is not merely to be admired, it is to be lived. It is to become the atmosphere in which you think, breathe, act, and rest. The infinite way is not a system of techniques. It is not a set of affirmations. It is not a ritual to perform. It is not a mental exercise. It is simply this: the continual return to the awareness of the presence within. This return is so gentle that the human mind overlooks it. It is so simple that the intellect dismisses it. It is so quiet that the world cannot perceive it. And yet, it is the very power that dissolves fear, heals the body, restores harmony, and reveals supply. Let us walk through this living recognition step by step, not as a formula, but as a movement of consciousness. 1. Be still. Let the world rest outside the door of awareness. Let us walk through this living recognition step by step, not as a formula, but as a movement of consciousness. It is simply this: the continual return to the awareness of the presence within. Before anything else, the soul must learn the sacred art of stillness. Stillness does not mean the absence of thought. It means the absence of striving. It means the willingness to lay down the burden of trying to fix your life, understand your life, or direct your life. This stillness is the open window through which grace enters. In this quiet, gently bring awareness to the truth. There is one presence, one power, one life. And that life is the substance of my being. You do not say this to convince yourself. You say it to recognize what is already so. This simple acknowledgement is the beginning of spiritual vision. It is the moment the veil begins to thin. Release the problem. Let appearances be what they are. Do not fight the appearance. Do not deny it. Do not treat it as something to be corrected, whether it is a financial concern, a health challenge, a relationship conflict, or an inner fear. Let it be. For the moment you attempt to fix it, you declare it real. And the moment you declare it real, you bind yourself to it. Instead, rest in the quiet recognition. This problem has no power of its own. Only God is power. You shift your attention from shadow to light. Kat. Rest in the presence. Let divine intelligence do the work. Here lies the heart of the practice. You do not speak to God. You listen for God. You do not request. You become receptive. You sit in the silence, not trying to think truth, but allowing truth to reveal itself. You rest without strain in the awareness that there is an infinite presence always functioning as your life. This is the practice of the presence, not effort, not concentration, not manipulation, but resting in what already is. 5. Wait for the inner shift, the softening, the opening, the knowing. At first, you may feel nothing. This is normal. For years, the mind has been conditioned to solve problems by force, to seek outward, to fear. But if you persist, gently, repeatedly, faithfully, something will happen, perhaps subtle at first, perhaps unmistakable later. A softening, a peace that has no cause, a quiet joy, a sense of assurance that does not depend on circumstances. This inner shift is the evidence of recognition. It is the activity of the Christ within your consciousness. It is the presence announcing itself. 6. Let action flow from stillness, not from fear. When the stillness has touched you, when that inner peace has dawned even faintly, you may return to the world of activity, not as one seeking solutions, but as one guided. Often you will know exactly what to do. Sometimes you will do nothing. Sometimes the situation resolves itself without any action from you. Grace works without your interference. Grace is the divine activity already present in consciousness. You are not creating harmony. You are witnessing it. 7. Return. Often make recognition your spiritual home. This is not a one-time event. This is a way of being. You return throughout the day, in moments of quiet, in pauses between tasks, in the midst of challenges, before decisions, after victories, during sorrows. You return again and again to the presence, and with each return, the illusion of separation dissolves a little more. With each return, the false self fades. With each return, the Christ within becomes your identity, your refuge, your guiding light. Beloved, this is the practical method, not to manifest, not to force, not to manipulate, but to recognize truth. It is simple, it is gentle, it is immediate, and it brings a transformation no technique can produce. Now that we have seen how to practice recognition, we may proceed naturally into the fruit of this practice. What happens when you stop using God and begin living from God, when grace becomes the governing principle of your life? Beloved, once the practice of recognition becomes the atmosphere of your being, once you cease reaching for God and begin resting in God, you will witness a transformation so natural, so quiet, so unforced, that you may not at first realize its magnitude. For grace does not enter with noise. It does not enter with drama. Grace appears the way dawn appears, not through effort but through inevitability. Let us look gently at the fruits of this shift, not as promises, not as rewards, not as goals, but as the natural outworking of the divine presence realized. 1. Peace becomes your foundation, not your desire. Let us look gently at the fruits of this shift, not as promises, not as rewards, not as goals, but as the natural outworking of the divine presence realized. But when you stop using God and begin living from God, something profound happens. Peace becomes the atmosphere you live in. This peace is not the absence of difficulty. It is the presence that dissolves the weight of difficulty. It is a stillness untouched by outer events. It is the quiet realization that nothing real can be threatened because God is the essence of your being. Peace does not come, peace is revealed. 2. Harmony appears where struggle once stood. When the mind is filled with fear and striving, even simple tasks feel heavy. When the mind rests in presence, harmony unfolds of its own accord. You will notice relationships softening, not because others have changed, but because you are no longer meeting them with the ego's weapons of fear, judgment, or expectation. You will notice cooperation appearing effortlessly. You will notice the right people entering your life at the right time. You will notice that problems which once seemed immovable dissolve with surprising ease. This is not coincidence. This is not luck. This is the reflection of inner harmony. 3. Supply flows without anxiety or strain. When you live as a separate self, supply feels fragile. You depend on the world to give you what you need. You fear that what you have can be taken away. You try to control the channels. But when you recognize God as the substance of your being, supply reveals itself as an infinite, ever-present, ever-unfolding expression of the One. You stop depending on persons or circumstances. You no longer pursue opportunities, they come. You no longer cling to channels, they open. You no longer fear loss, for you know that what God is cannot diminish. Joel Goldsmith often said, supply is not something God sends. Supply is the activity of God revealing itself. But when you recognize God as the substance of your being, supply reveals itself as an infinite, ever-present, ever unfolding expression of the One. 4. Healing occurs as the recognition of wholeness. In the old way, one seeks to remove illness. In the new way, one recognizes the impossibility of a sick spirit. Healing becomes the byproduct of realization, not the goal of prayer. The moment you stop fighting the body and begin recognizing the perfection of the one life living as you, the tension that sustains the condition dissolves. The fear that feeds the condition weakens. The belief in two powers, good and evil, fades, and healing unfolds naturally, gently, securely, not always dramatically, not always instantly, but always truly. 5. Guidance becomes inner knowing, not outer seeking. When you cease using God as a consultant and begin letting God live your life, guidance shifts from mental decision-making to inner recognition. You feel a nudge, a knowing, a quiet impulse. You sense when to act and when to be still. You sense when to speak and when to remain silent. You sense when to move forward and when to wait. This inner knowing is not the mind's logic. It is the activity of the Christ within, the infinite intelligence expressing itself without noise. As Joel said, God is living its life as you. Listen, and you will discover the way prepared before you. This inner knowing is not the mind's logic. It is the activity of the Christ within, the infinite intelligence expressing itself without noise. 6. Life becomes a flow, not a fight. The greatest shift in spiritual realization is this. Life ceases to feel like something you must manage. You act, but without strain. You plan, but without fear. You work, but without anxiety. You move, but without inner resistance. The ego's grip relaxes. The nervous system softens. The heart rests, and you discover that the presence you sought to use has always been the presence that carries you. This is the fruit of recognition. This is the life lived from God, not toward God, not trying to reach God, but resting in God as the foundation of being. Beloved, once this shift begins, once you stop calling on God and begin recognizing God, every corner of your life becomes illuminated with grace. And now, having seen the results of this transformation, we may move toward the natural conclusion of our journey, the closing realization that living from God is the essence of Christ, consciousness itself. Beloved, as we bring this journey to a close, let us return to the very place where all true journeys begin, not in the world, not in the mind, not in the seeking, but in the quiet chamber of the heart where the infinite resides. For everything we have spoken, everything we have contemplated, everything that has stirred within you in these past moments has been pointing to one truth. You have never been separate from God, not for a second, not by a thought, not by a mistake, not by a fear, not by a lifetime. The presence you have sought is the presence that has been living you. And so, as this message comes to its conclusion, your spiritual journey does not conclude. It begins right here, in this breath, in this moment, in this awareness. Let us gather the essence of what we have discovered. 1. Seeking first is not a command, it is a recognition. It is the simple turning of attention from the outer illusion to the inner reality. It is the willingness to let God be God in your consciousness. You do not seek first to become spiritual. You seek first because you are spiritual. You are awakening to your own nature. 2. The presence within is the only source, power, and life. You need not convince it. You need not petition it. You need not move it. You have only to recognize it. And in that recognition, everything unfolds as it must. 3. Life unfolds gracefully when you stop interfering, When the personal will relaxes, when the anxious mind softens, when the grasping ceases, the activity of the Christ becomes visible. Not because you have achieved something, but because you have ceased obscuring what has always been true. For the spiritual path is not about improvement, it is about revelation. You are not perfecting a human being. You are unveiling the infinite being that has been hidden beneath fear, conditioning, and belief. The kingdom is not reached, it is revealed. 5. The practice is beautifully simple. Be still. Acknowledge the presence. Release appearances. Rest in the silence. Let action arise from inner knowing. This silence, this recognition, this awareness is the doorway to the kingdom. As Joel often said, we are not seeking to bring God into our experience. We are seeking to recognize that God is the essence of our experience. 6. You walk forward, not toward God, but from God. Every step you take after this moment is taken as one who knows. I live, yet not I. The presence lives itself as me. This is the beginning of effortless living. This is the foundation of spiritual realization. This is the heart of the Christ consciousness. Beloved, as we part from these spoken words, let us not part from the awareness awakened within them. Let there be a moment, just a breath, where you turn inward now, quietly, gently, sincerely, and recognize the kingdom of God is here. The presence is here. The I, the life, the love, the one is here in you as you now carry this awareness with you. Return to it often. Let it become your resting place, your refuge, your identity. And as you do, everything that once felt separate will dissolve into oneness. Everything that once felt heavy will lift. Everything that once felt uncertain will become clear. This is the gift. This is the truth. This is the way. Blessings, beloved. Rest now in the presence that has never left you.